Neighbors in Weddington, for the past few years, your town council has taken actions regarding fire service that you need to understand.
As a resident, taxpayer, and voter, you have the right and responsibility to know what's going on.
Our commitment in this video, and the dialogue that will most certainly ensue, is to be honest, truthful, and factual.
Let's get the full picture on the table regarding our fire service.
In this video, we will cover fire service basics, a brief history of the events that got us to where we are today, then leave you with 12 points to consider.
Now, if you live in the town of Weddington, you probably have one of these 4 opinions about fire service.
I'm mad as hell.
How could they do that?
What are these people thinking?
The courts will settle it.
Fire Dieter and Barbara.
We got what we wanted.
Wesley Chapel Fire Service is better anyway.
Saves us money.
When I dial 911, I just want someone competent to show up fast.
Let's just move on.
What fire department issue?
There's so much political rhetoric flying around, it makes my head hurt.
Is anyone telling the truth?
I wonder what really happened.
Know this going in. The discussion about fire service is not about the quality of service we receive. Historically, Weddington has been serviced by 3 outstanding volunteer fire departments: Wesley Chapel, Providence, and Stallings.
All of our firefighters are heroes, and we are grateful for their service and dedication.
The focus here is on the process that got us to where we are today and about transparency, integrity, and honesty from our elected officials.
It's your right to decide for yourself and to vote based on your convictions.
Before we break down the details of Weddington's fire service, we need to cover some fire service basics. Let's start by considering generic fire departments. There are 2 basic types: municipal and volunteer. Municipal fire departments like Charlotte and Monroe are part of the city government. Firefighters are employees of the city, and the assets like fire trucks, stations, and equipment belong to the city.
Volunteer fire departments, on the other hand, are typically independent corporations that file with the IRS for nonprofit status, usually 501c3 or 501c4. These corporations have their own accounting, payroll, management, and insurance. Like any other business, volunteer fire departments hire employees, take money for services rendered, pay bills, and accumulate assets. These assets belong to the department and may include trucks, buildings, firefighting equipment, and furnishings for their station. As a federal nonprofit, and specifically a nonprofit fire department, there are specific restrictions on money and the distribution of assets if they go out of business.
Weddington and all of Union County, except the city of Monroe, are served by volunteer fire departments. Who are the customers of volunteer fire departments? Generally speaking, VFDs provide service to towns and counties. These government entities establish requirements, for example, the level of 24/7 on-premise staffing, and the departments respond with a budget. The costs are negotiated, and a contract, called a fire suppression agreement, is created, giving the fire department authority to provide service to the towns and/or counties. If the municipality owns the fire station itself, a lease agreement will also be needed.
Providing fire and emergency medical services is not cheap. Many volunteer fire departments are being asked to provide staff to cover 24-hour-a-day shifts. One way to manage the level of service versus the cost to deliver is to blend paid professionals with volunteers. Across the country, attracting volunteers is becoming increasingly difficult. There are several standards bodies that guide fire departments in the delivery of their service. Some are mandatory, some optional, but all of them are designed to help fire departments deliver life and property-saving services in the most effective manner possible. In North Carolina, the Office of the State Fire Marshal uses the ISO standard to evaluate the fire suppression capability of a department. State fire marshal employees make physical visits to fire departments around the state to assess capabilities and establish their ISO rating.
A 5 road mile distance or less from your primary fire station is needed to achieve the best ISO rating or protection code for your property. Properties greater than 5 miles could receive a higher ISO rating. The existence of fire hydrants within 1,000 feet from your property is also considered.
And this is where you come in. As a homeowner, you have a homeowner's insurance policy underwritten by an insurance company. These insurance companies are independent corporations that can set their own rates. The ISO rating for the fire department that services your home is assigned to every address in that insurance district. Homes in an insurance district with an ISO rating of 6 or lower are eligible for the best insurance rates.
Properties in these districts have a property tax rate that is applied to the property tax value. Revenue generated by the fire tax districts is used to fund the operating budgets of fire departments.
Okay, so that covers the basics of fire service. Now let's dig into Weddington's fire service to uncover why this has become such a political hot potato and why the lawsuit against our town could be the #1 topic in 2016.
To understand how we got here, we need to roll back the hands of time to 1954, the year Providence Volunteer Fire Department was formed. The original building sat on the corner of what is now Providence Road and Ballantyne Commons, where the Shell Station and the vegetable stand reside. Providence was the only fire department from Sardis Road to Waxhaw. In 1972, they moved into a new 4-bay station at the corner of Tilly Morris and McKee Road. This station is currently Charlotte Fire Department Station Number 9. In 1975, the Wesley Chapel Volunteer Fire Department was formed. Some say it was an uneasy split from Providence, but that notion hasn't been validated.
Now, in the early 80s, Charlotte was growing rapidly and annexing several towns and communities. Residents of Weddington wanted to avoid annexation, so in 1983, incorporated the town. During the same period, Charlotte was also consolidating their fire service. By 1985, with Union County also growing, Providence had an opportunity to sell their building to Charlotte and raise enough money to build the current facility on Hemby Road. This move did not come without opposition. With Wesley Chapel also wanting to cover the Weddington area, the rivalry between the two departments began.
Let's roll forward to 2011. Weddington's population more than doubled and was at about 9,700 people. The town was moving away from its agricultural roots and rapidly becoming a white-collar bedroom community. The requirements for fire service were moving towards 24/7 coverage. And most importantly, the Union County Fire District lines dictated that a large percentage of Weddington residents were not being serviced by the closest fire station.
With Mecklenburg County continuing to reduce the response area assigned to Providence, PVFD was left with a bulk of its funding being provided by a small section of Weddington. Since fire department funding is largely provided by a fire district tax or fee, without Mecklenburg County funds, Providence was left with a Union County district too small to fund the requirements from the town of Weddington.
In 2010, Union County had funded a fire study that both praised Providence for excellent advanced standards of cover, while at the same time suggested a merger between PVFD and Wesley Chapel for financial reasons.
This 2011 Weddington Town Council found themselves between the proverbial rock and a hard place. Providence is located practically in the town's geographic center and within 5 miles of almost every address. If we allow Providence to go out of business, we lose coverage for the western side of the town. Those residents could experience higher insurance premiums and far lower fire service levels. This clearly could not happen. If we remain status quo, Providence's financial model must be supported from general funds above and beyond the fire tax or fire fee.
Council faced these major fire service issues. 1. Fix the fire service model so that the closest station is the primary for every home in Weddington. This could be accomplished by requesting that Union County update the fire service districts or become a municipal fire district. The municipal fire district makes Weddington the taxing authority for fire service for all residents rather than the county. 2. Fix the operational funding of Providence Volunteer Fire Department. By either merging Providence Volunteer Fire Department and Wesley Chapel, remember these are two independent legal entities, fixing the fire district lines, or becoming a municipal fire district. Fixing the fire district lines or creating a municipal fire district are independent from any merger activity. 3. Upgrade the Hemby Road Station to be OSHA and Americans with Disabilities Act compliant, a requirement for overnight firefighter occupancy. This issue is independent from the other two. Mayor Pro Tem Dan Barry was adamant that the town would not invest in number 3 without a solution to number 2 in place. By July of 2011, merger talks between Providence and Wesley Chapel had come to a standstill. After multiple appeals to the Union County Board of County Commissioners, it became apparent that the 27-year-old fire district lines would not be changed.
In October of 2011, the push for the municipal fire district was full on. Then in November, the last meeting before the 2011 election, misunderstandings over tax rates caused momentary panic on the council, and the resolution to form the municipal fire district was rescinded.
The elections of 2011 saw a new mayor and town council elected to office. The newly elected town council had the same 3 priorities regarding fire service. Only now, Union County Fire Marshal was considering fines if the fire station was not brought into compliance. Town council requested that Providence and Wesley Chapel reopen merger talks. By April, Town Council had formally adopted Resolution R 2012-6, the formation of Weddington Municipal Fire District.
It's important to note that in the formation of the municipal fire district, most Weddington residents saw no tax increase. The former Weddington town tax was 3.0, and for residents in the former Wesley Chapel tax district, the fire tax was 2.2. The municipal tax combined the two into one for a 5.2 cent tax rate. Homes in the former PVFD district were on a fire fee at $100 per parcel. So for homes with a tax value of $450,000 or less, these residents saw a tax decrease. Now, all residents of Weddington are being taxed by the same formula, one town tax.
The residual effect was an increase in the sales tax distribution from the North Carolina Department of Revenue by almost $200,000 per year. We can thank Dan Barry, Pam Hadley, and Barbara Harrison for voting to finally approve the municipal fire district. It's also important to note that in the new fire suppression agreements between the town and Wesley Chapel, Providence, and Stallings fire departments, the department closest to a Weddington home was awarded the primary coverage status, even if the home was within the 5-mile distance from Providence. Public safety took the highest priority, as it should.
With any change of this magnitude, there has to be a downside. The property value of the homes that were moved from the Wesley Chapel Fire District to the new Town of Weddington District totaled more than $940 million. At a fire tax rate of 2.2 cents per $100 of valuation, this totaled more than $206,000 of annual revenue that moved from Wesley Chapel to Weddington. With regard to upgrading the Hemby Road Station, conversation and negotiation began to revolve around the town taking ownership of the asset, the building and land, in exchange for financing the upgrades and a long-term fire suppression agreement.
As the calendar rolled from 2012 to 2013, there was no change in town council. The major issues around fire service were: fix the service model, done, completed. Fix the operational funding model for Providence, mostly fixed. Upgrade Hemby Road Station. This involved funding the project for the back building first, then the front building. Finalize the real estate transaction. Define and close the long-term FSA, which also required a local act of the North Carolina General Assembly.
Now let's break down the business deal that was being arranged between the town of Weddington and Providence. The Hemby Road Station, owned outright by Providence, needed upgrades required by the town, costing approximately $1 million. The town of Weddington would underwrite those repairs in exchange for the real property, the building and land. Remember, a fire department without a building is out of business. In exchange, Providence gets a long-term 10-year fire service agreement and a long-term 10-year lease. While this was one contiguous deal, it would be transacted in 3 legal components: a fire service agreement, a lease agreement, and a real estate transaction. Let's look inside the FSA because there's been a lot of discussion about this. To protect Providence, they wanted a statement added requiring a $1 million termination without cause. Why? Without a penalty, any future town council could simply cancel the FSA and put in any fire department they choose. Dan Barry motioned to reduce the amount to $500,000. The motion failed to pass. Pam Hadley moved for $750,000, $250,000 lower than what PVFD wanted. The motion passed unanimously. Remember, this amount never comes into play unless the FSA is canceled without cause. The FSA was completed in 2013. At the end of 2013, after years of struggle over fire service in Weddington, the table was set for a decade of spending time and energy on other things. Yes, there were budgetary challenges, but there's always budgetary challenges.
The elections of 2013 saw a new mayor and 2 new town council members voted into office. The actions this town council took in 2014 and 2015 could change Weddington for many years to come. As we unfold these events on the screen, you decide if they are changes for the good of the residents or not. To gain perspective, let's place on a timeline the key events taken by this administration, then we'll break down some of the components. The town council was sworn in December 9th, 2013. Immediately, the new mayor issued a memorandum of understanding to Providence Volunteer Fire Department. At the town council retreat in January 2014, the projections spreadsheet was introduced. This was later updated in June. Since the previous council left the real estate transaction documents in a near signable state, the details, mostly price, were being hashed out between January and August. In the May town council meeting, Mayor Dieter reviewed 4 purchase options. In this same meeting, he introduced the concept of conducting a Weddington fire study. The 10 years lease agreement with Providence and real estate transaction transferring ownership of the fire department building and the land to the town were both closed in August. The McGrath Consulting Company was selected for the fire study. These reviews took place in August through October, with the final report being delivered in November. In each town council session in 2014 and 2015, residents addressed town council on various topics. Regarding the fire department, comments were typically 80% in favor of keeping Providence Volunteer Fire Department and 20% in favor of consolidation. These are estimates.
As 2014 rolled into 2015, the results of the McGrath report were being absorbed. In February, Town Council unexpectedly voted to rescind the municipal fire district. Union County rejected this notion by refusing to take Weddington back into the county fire structure. So in March, the motion to rescind was rescinded. PVFD was recognized in February for achieving an ISO Class 4 rating, putting them in the top 9% of all fire departments in the state of North Carolina. Also in February, per the recommendations in the McGrath report, the town requested that Providence and Wesley Chapel reopen merger talks. In March, the mayor, along with the president of both fire stations, drafted a letter to the residents praising the positive progress being made in the merger. In April, the mayor and 3 town council members voted to cancel the FSA for Providence as well as the lease agreement. The mayor cited for cause, but no cause was ever established. Also in May, the mayor reported that Wesley Chapel had purchased 3 used but certainly adequate fire trucks for a grand total of $115,000. These would be used to equip the Hemby Road station. A Change.org petition was started and accumulated 907 online supporters of the stance against the town's actions to remove Providence. An additional 300 hand signatures were gathered. Finally, in May of 2015, Providence filed lawsuit against the town of Weddington for breach of contract, fraud in the inducement, and unfair and deceptive labor practices. In June, a new FSA and lease with the option to purchase was established with Wesley Chapel. On July 29th, Providence was required to vacate the Hemby Road station. In August, Union County Superior Court Judge the Honorable David Lee issued a temporary restraining order preventing the town from selling the Hemby Road property before the lawsuit had been settled.
Now that we have the major pieces in place, let's take a more detailed look at several of them, as we pose these 12 points to consider.
The Memorandum of Understanding. In this document, issued on the first day in office, Mayor Dieter is attempting to restrict Providence, a private corporation, from spending their own money more than 1% per year. What was the rationale for this move? Now, this MOU was never accepted by Providence.
Fire study. Union County had conducted a $75,000 fire study in 2010. As we saw earlier, This study recommended a merger between Providence Volunteer Fire Department and Wesley Chapel Volunteer Fire Department. To what value did the mayor see in commissioning another study just for Weddington? Based on his commentary in the May 12th minutes, the mayor wanted to review the operating budget for Providence to help us determine what is good, but the study would be for the whole town, all 3 stations. Once delivered in November, the McGrath study had these 3 recommendations: status quo, single source provider, consolidation. What was not included was budget review and determination of what was good. And the study was not for the whole town, but focused almost exclusively on Providence. Did the McGrath report tell us anything we didn't already know? Was this $10,000 a good spend of taxpayer money?
Purchase price. Also in May of 2014, the mayor reported on the purchase price negotiations with Providence for the building and land. The mayor presented 2 options from the town and 2 from PVFD. The mayor advocated the Dieter-Harrison proposal. When the real estate transaction closed in August of 14, this was in fact the purchase price, plus some accrued interest. This additional $30,000 was for furnishings. Well, what furnishings? Exhibit B of the purchase document listed them as these. Now, the town had entered into a 10-year fire service agreement with Providence and would close on a 10-year lease agreement and a real estate transaction in August. Why would fiscally conservative, some would say penny-pinching Mayor Dieter, pay $30,748 of taxpayer money for TVs, microwaves, and refrigerators for a tenant that was contracted to be in the building for 10 more years? Certainly these items would have been past their useful life in 10 years. Now, did the mayor have another tenant in mind?
Lease with an option to buy. In the Wesley Chapel lease agreement is an option to purchase the Hemby Road station for $750,000. The town paid $923,000 and the building is appraised for $1.6 million. Why would the mayor sell it for $750,000? Would this be a wise use of your money?
Legal documents. Yeah, there's been some talk about the release of legal documents to the attorneys of Providence. The legal bills in question were from the February through August 2014 timeframe. Notice from the timeline that the lawsuit from Providence would not be filed until May of 2015, between 9 and 14 months after the events in the bills. No other legal actions were pending. These legal bills exceeded $68,000 of taxpayer money. Aside from the fact that legal bills are not confidential, why had these bills stirred so much emotion from town council? Why has town attorney Anthony Fox not provided work papers from these meetings to a town council member? The request was made over 6 months ago. Mr. Fox verbally agreed to provide the work papers, but to date has not, even to your elected official. What is so secret about these meetings? Why are town council members so emotional about it? What are they hiding?
Annual savings. The projection spreadsheet has driven much of the financial rationale for many of the decisions. The Dieter camp has touted an annual savings of greater than $200,000. Let's look inside the numbers. First, $100,000 per year is accrued for new fire trucks. Wesley Chapel proved that adequate equipment can be secured for far less money. Next, Providence has submitted a revised budget reducing their need by $75,000. This was not considered in Mayor Dieter's number. A more realistic annual savings could be about $50,000, a very manageable number. An important number to look at for the town at the end of each year is the fund balance, or our savings. According to this analysis, including one-time charges of $900,000 for Hemby Road improvements and a projected $500,000 for a new fire truck, the fund balance projection goes from $2.4 million in 2014 to $1.6 million in 2020, an $800,000 reduction. In addition, while revenues should be projected conservatively, we already know that in 2015, sales tax disbursement was almost $60,000 more than projected and higher than every year in the projection. Do you believe the annual savings projections are watertight or just a big scare tactic?
Merger update letter to residents. Why did the mayor send a letter to the residents of Weddington in March of 2015 updating us on the good news of the merger progress, when in fact the town canceled Providence's contract 1 month later?
Cancel without cause. The mayor and town council had the option of canceling PVFD's FSA without cause and writing them a check for $750,000 as compensation for their property. Why do you think the mayor elected to cancel with cause when no cause was cited and subject the town to the current lawsuit?
Providence Volunteer Fire Department lawsuit. Lawsuits, through their discovery processes, bring to the light of day details that may have been previously hidden. As part of the public record, let's consider the sworn affidavits of Nancy Anderson and Ken Langford. In her sworn affidavit, Mrs. Anderson had these comments. The entire affidavit is public record. Pause your playback if you want to read more thoroughly. In his sworn affidavit, Mr. Langford had these comments.
Does all of this make you feel like the time and energy townspeople spent in public comments was just a big charade?
Financial risk. Some have estimated that the results of the lawsuit could be one of these four outcomes. The town wins on all counts. The town loses the breach claim, but no fraud. The town loses the breach claim and is guilty of fraud. The town loses the breach claim, is guilty of fraud, and must return the property. Does a potential for a small amount of savings warrant this kind of risk to the town? This is going to be a mess. Who do you want to clean it up? The same characters that got us into it?
Trust and integrity. Given this timeline and these points to consider, do you feel like you have a mayor that is trustworthy? Have his actions earned your trust? As long as Mayor Dieter has had a voting majority on town council, his actions have proven that he will do anything he wants without regard to the negative outcome. Fire service may not be your issue, but the next one might be. Will you be heard? Who can you trust? Leadership. Many Weddington residents, like myself, want to live our daily routines and have trust and confidence that our elected officials are handling the town's matters with integrity and honesty.
We may not agree with every position or action, but at minimum, we want and deserve an open dialogue and a voice at the table, if we so choose. It's your vote, you decide. As for me and my family, we support Pam Hadley, Janice Probst, and Mickey Weaver.
We support Pam Hadley, Janice Probst, and Mickey Weaver because, contrary to the deceitful propaganda many of you have been subjected to, these ladies do have Weddington's best interests in mind and will listen to your thoughts and concerns.
We need this kind of leadership. We deserve it. Exercise your constitutional privilege and vote on Tuesday, November the 3rd.